Imagine yourself shrouded in the velvet gloom of the Vatican's hallowed corridors, your breath shallow as you press against the cool flank of a marble pillar. The year is 1501, and the air hangs heavy with the curl of incense, laced now with a headier elixir, the musk of forbidden desires. Candelabras flicker like conspirators, their flames dancing shadows across frescoed walls where divine figures gaze down in silent judgment. From your hidden vantage, the rustle of silk on stone drifts toward you, interwoven with laughter that rebounds off arches once trod by apostles and martyrs. Your pulse thunders in your ears as the veil parts on a spectacle that defies the sanctity of these halls, an orgy of such unbridled excess that it would eclipse the revels of Caligula himself, etching an indelible scar upon the soul of Christendom. Through the crisp October breeze filtering into the papal apartments, the aroma of roasted chestnuts wafts like an innocent prelude to perdition. Yet on this night, these simple nuts will transmute into instruments of a tableau that forever tarnishes. In the opulent chambers of Cesare Borgia, son of Pope Alexander VI, 50 courtesans array themselves for a revelry consigned to the shadowed pages of Renaissance Rome's most clandestine chronicle, a diary entombed in the Vatican archives, veiled beneath veils of sanctity, like a heretic's whispered recantation. As we unearth these veiled tales of endurance amid moral tempests, if the concealed facets of history stir your intellect, kindly lend a like and subscribe for further explorations into the veiled annals of time. And do share in the comments the corner of the globe from which you join this odyssey. It is a profound wonder that we convene across continents and epochs, bound by the figure destined to embody the nadir of papal infamy, entered the world as Rodrigo Borgia on the first day of 1431 in the sun-baked town of Zativa, nestled near Valencia in the sun-scorched lands of Spain. The ochre dust of Iberian trails lingered in when Alfonso claimed the tiara as Pope Calixtus III in 1455. Rodrigo's trajectory crystallized, sealed with the unyielding stamp of familial favor. At the tender age of 25, he was elevated to cardinal deacon not by celestial summons or fervent piety, but through the insidious current of nepotism, that perennial toxin coursing through the youthful Spaniard descended upon Rome with a gaze alight with veracity, and a spirit aflame with unquenchable aspiration, poised to seize the offerings of the eternal city like a falcon. Dawn brought pilgrims prostrate before altars sheathed in gold, their supplications ascending like incense to the divine. Twilight unveiled the same cobblestones as arenas for commerce in the basest of trades, where purveyors of the body amassed fortunes that mocked the vows of poverty. The papal court had devolved into a bazaar where sanctity itself dangled for auction, priced in gleaming ducats. Rodrigo Borgia navigated this morass with the acuity of a navigator charting treacherous straits. He amassed fortunes with the relentless method of a silkworm weaving its cocoon, gathering benefices across the continent like a collector curating jewels of inestimable worth. His existence mirrored that of a princeling of the Renaissance rather than a shepherd of souls. Foremost among these liaisons was Venozza dei Catanei, a patrician of Rome whose allure rivaled her shrewd mastery of the swirling eddies of curial intrigue. From 1474 to 1482, she bestowed upon Rodrigo 4 progeny, who would anchor the tempestuous saga of Borgia ascendancy: Juan, Cesare, Lucrezia, and Joffre. Each offspring served as a pawn in Rodrigo. Even in cardinals' robes, Rodrigo's indiscretions ignited murmurs across the 7 hills, a feat in a metropolis where outrage was as ubiquitous as the Tiber's flow. Pope Pius II dispatched a missive of rebuke in 1460, lambasting Rodrigo's debaucheries in Siena that had convulsed the citizenry and court alike. Yet remorse was a bauble Rodrigo deemed superfluous. The papacy beckoned, and ethical qualms were mere brambles to be trampled in pursuit of the prize. The conclave of August 1492 unfurled as 23 cardinals convened to anoint Christ's earthly steward, their deliberations lubricated by rivers of gold, oaths murmured like litanies, and to the astonishment of many, Rome erupted in jubilation. The populace had warmed to their Iberian prelate, foreseeing an era of splendor and vigor. Blazes crowned the Capitoline peaks, processions of torches serpented through antiquity's veins, and arches of triumph materialized from timber and travertine, rising like incarnate invocations. Alexander's investiture at St. Peter's on the 26th summoned what chroniclers hailed as the most His inaugural decrees hinted at renewal. He quelled the anarchy of Rome's alleys, where over 200 slayings had bloodied the stones in mere moons preceding his election. Districts were delineated under vigilant magistrates sworn to harmony, and each Tuesday the pontiff convened to adjudicate petitions with a dispatch lauded as exemplary. For an evanescent interlude, it appeared that heaven had enthroned a steward of providence. Yet authority, akin to potent vintage, unmasks the essence it infuses rather than forges anew. Alexander's nascent edicts paled before his fervour to exalt his brood, especially the sons Juan and Cesare. Juan ascended to the dukedom of Gandia in Spain, wed to a kinswoman of Ferdinand the Catholic. Cesare, scarcely 18, claimed the archbishopric of Valencia and cardinal's mantle, wielding them as rungs on a ladder to profane eminence rather than altars of devotion. The papal suites under Alexander's sway evolved into a colosseum where holiness and heresy entwined in a grotesque pas de deux. Suppers lingered into the witching hour, shadowed by diversions that strained the elastic of decorum, even in an age of libertine license. Alexander's consort, Julia Farnese, acclaimed across the city as La Bella for her transcendent grace, glided through Vatican precincts with the impunity of a prince of the church, her silhouette a perpetual testament to vows shattered by carnal tempests. Into this realm of antitheses stepped Johann Burchard, a sentinel of scruple equipped with no dreamer was he. Burchard embodied the ledger, keeper's dispassion and the notary's unblinking scrutiny. His prose eschewed the baroque flourishes of fellow annalists, deriving its gravitas from stark veracity. He inscribed liturgies with the zeal he accorded indiscretions, forging a testament that would unsettle even the most stoic archivists of the Holy See. The ceremonial's perch in the papal edifice was singular, elevated to behold yet insulated from collusion, akin to a spectre evoked by hearthfire, traversing intimate alcoves while seeming inconsequential. Prelates unburdened ceremonial quandaries upon him, oblivious to his vigil during lapses of prudence. This spectral quality honed his prowess. Juan, the anointed heir as Duke of Gandia, embodied corruption commensurate with his unmerited rise. Whispers abounded of his savagery, lascivious overreaches, and martial ineptitude. The dynasty's luminary had morphed into an encumbrance that even paternal devotion could scarce overlook. The cataclysm of the 14th of June 1497 reshaped the firmament. Juan's corpse surfaced in the Tiber's murky embrace, throat slashed, torso riddled with 9 gashes, a tableau of savagery that quaked the eternal city and felled Alexander in a maelstrom of sorrow. For 3 days and nights, the pontiff spurned sustenance and slumber, his wails piercing the seclusion of his chambers like those of a common mourner, stripped of imperial veneer. In this abyss, Alexander proclaimed ecclesiastical renewal, curbing curiosity. The pontiff's gaze pivoted to his remnants, chief among them Cesare, his unyielding blade, forged in resolve and bereft of compunction. If one pulsed as Alexander's sentiment, Cesare cleaved as his instrument, towering, comely, intellect veering toward brilliance. Groomed for the cloth like his sire, Cesare's gifts flourished in the forge of arms and diplomacy, not divinity's cloister. In 1498, he relinquished his cardinalate, the inaugural such abdication, eschewing sacred purple for temporal scepter. Italy's fractured mosaic proffered Cesare a canvas Machiavelli might envy. Louis XII of France craved annulment's papal imprimatur, while duchies dangled as spoils for the audacious. Alexander discerned in these fissures a realm for his scion, forged through pacts with Gallic interlopers against kin Italians. Via beleaguerment, his stratagems so beguiled that Machiavelli etched him as the prince's archetype, extolling the fusion of ferocity and finesse in sovereignty's forge. Such triumphs demanded coffers that even Vatican vaults strained to furnish, spurring Alexander to alchemical fiscal arts. Indulgences, prelacies, and scarlet hats auctioned systematically in his twilight years. Affluent lineages bartered preferments for progeny, wedding redemption to rank. The sacred college burgeoned not by grace but by guineas. 47 elevations under Alexander, each a torrent into the treasury, and Rome in this epoch evoked a citadel besieged by its sovereigns. The Borgias commandeered the patrimony as patrimonial domain, Alexander as paterfamilias, Cesare as heir apparent. Lucrezia, her legacy later laundered in hagiography, served as dynastic chattel in nuptials that exalted Borgia ends over her felicity. Her union with Giovanni Sforza dissolved on speech. The Vatican suites burgeoned into amphitheatres of escalating pageants, assaying Renaissance tolerance's brink. Alexander savoured histrionic ballets, symphonies of lute and voice, banquets that devoured the midnight oil. Attendees spanned scarlet peers, envoys, magnates, and sirens, whose charms equaled their reticence or its absence. These convocations decliners branded themselves adversaries, courting the Borgias' inexorable reprisal. Autumn 1501 crowned the clan's zenith of might and nadir of virtue. Cesare's Romagna triumphs elicited martial plaudits continent-wide. Alexander had navigated tempests from Charles VIII's incursion to patrician vendettas. The Jubilee of 1500 swelled Rome with pilgrim throngs, engorging both apostolic purses and in this vortex of victory and vice, Cesare orchestrated the infamy dubbed the Banquet of Chestnuts, a enigma of intent, jubilation's capstone, stratagem's mask, or the 31st of October 1501 All Hallows' Eve, when veils twixt realms, thinned to gossamer perhaps by design or caprice, hosted history's most execrable pontifical debauch on a night when spirits purportedly mingled with mortals. The irony was exquisite. Amid commemorations of the departed, the Borgias would enter the last vestiges of papal probity. Cesare's Vatican quarters, adorned by Pinturicchio's early Alexandrine commissions, sprawled within the apostolic palace. Walls bloomed with vignettes of myth and martyrdom, a sardonic proscenium for profanities alien to both pantheons. Crafted to parade Borgia opulence and erudition, these salons, the roster bespoke Borgia Rot's expanse. Prayer, bound cardinals mingled with gold, gagged nobles, legates from distant thrones, gleaning Vatican vectors or lured by prurient conjecture. Yet the luminaries were Cesare's 50 courtesans, polished sirens versed in delight's diplomacy, not alley-waifs, but connoisseurs of potentates' caprices. Seasoned in prior papal frolics, they mastered Johann Burchard, ceremonia by edict, attended not as reveller, but recorder, poised for ritual exigencies amid intimacies. This mandate stationed him as ideal archivist of amnesias. His Latin ledger, etched with coroner's candor, unveils the night's arc and the papacy's ethical miasma. Per Burchard, The soiree commenced orthodoxly. Viands of autumnal bounty graced Cesare's sanctum, paired with vintages matured in subterranean Roman vaults. Discourse meandered through statecraft, campaigns, and muses' patronage, a veneer of urbane polish. Transitions stirred as platters receded, unveiling the mask's core. The 50, swathed in satins and damasks tailored to Allure's geometry, swayed to lutes from oath-bound minstrels, rhythms coaxing proximity's tide. What ensued essayed even Alexander's lax mores. As Burchard limbs with exactitude, the damsels commenced veiled, but libations tide-stripped veils incrementally till nudity reigned. The eponymous chestnuts crowned the rite, candelabras descended to tessellated floors, birthing luminous aisles amid umbral seas. Nuts cascaded twixt flames. The unclad troop, bid to quadrupedal harvest, traversed the labyrinthine glow, forms agleam in prismatic firelight. Alexander VI, per Burchard, surveyed from a dais of dignity, flanked by Cesare and Lucrezia, a triad whose daughter's attendance baffles posterity. Accomplice in lineage's lapse, or ensnared by inexorable tides, chronicles clash, yet concur on her vigil as depravity peaked. The coda devolved to contests. Male feasters vied for congresses maximized, wagers of silken robes, ornate footgear, jeweled fillets, hand-wrought overtures tallied by lackeys transmuted congress into Colosseum farce for papal mirth. Burchard's codex slumbered in the apostolic archive, embargoed for ages. When Leo XIII unsealed the vaults in the 1882, he demurred at Alexander's dossiers, lest they lacerate a legacy 4 centuries cold. Such trepidation underscores the scandal's perdurance. Dawn after the chestnut rite dawned upon a Rome ostensibly serene, yet riven at its spiritual core. Pilgrims queued for yet the night's whispers proliferated via valets, vigiles, and underlings' vines. Beyond the walls, dispatches from envoys, attendees, or auditors disseminated dismay archived in European repositories. Even courts of supple ethic marveled at Vatican profanation. The ripple transcended ethics into polity. Reformers like Girolamo Savonarola in Florentine pyres seized the tale as indictment of irreparable rot. Deposal synods surged, buttressed by Burchard's ledger confirming Borgia maledictions. The banquet crested Alexander's curia, not anomaly but apex of ascending turpitude, rendering the court alien to patristic piety. Sanctum and sty amalgamated till demarcation demanded exertion few essayed. Cesare's trajectory vaulted post-scandal, morality's gale scant in Italy's realpolitik. His laurels endured from tacticians prizing efficacy or ethos. Machiavelli's dissection cleaved virtue from virtue, sanctioning exigency for crowns. Yet such edifices tottered. Alexander expired the 18th of August 1503, malaria's toll, or venoms. Encircled by calumny's shroud, Lucrezia endured as Ferrari's duchess, her twilight eclipsed by Juvenilia's umbra and kin's infamy. Julius II shunned the tainted suites, ascending to Raphael's frescoes above masterpieces enshrining Vatican apogee. This ascent betokened schism from Alexander's detritus. Though reputational wounds festered beyond plaster's mend, contemporaries affirmed the ledger's kernel, framing it in Renaissance libertinism. Courtesanal spectacles rife among laity, Alexander's sin magnified by Stoll's sanctity. The locale layers irony. Pinturicchio's murals, Olympians and Hierophants, gazed upon tableau blaspheming both creeds, a mural musing on aspiration's chasm from frailty. Vatican sondes unveil the Warren's acoustics. Contiguous yet insulated chambers, abetted dual corroborants beyond Burchard envoy epistles, alluding to boundary-testing frolics fortify the Rite's historicity, if sans lurid lineaments. The banquet's aftershocks ripple papal annals beyond proximate shocks. Alexander's apogee armed reformers, Luther's barbs drew steel from such codices, validating hieratic hypocrisy. The Counter-Reformation's mid-century salvo countered in part these tempests. Trent's strictures on celibacy and academies remedied Alexander's lurid lessons. Baroque pomp supplanted spontaneity, rituals rigor exalting majesty while staunching scandal's seep. Participants' psyches elude full plumb. Courtesans likely viewed duty as vocation's demand, not debasement's yoke. Prelates, complicity or coercion laced with reprisals lash. Rome's commons, apprised of lapses, thronged unswayed masses told. Sacraments flowed discerning clerics' clay from Rite's gold, a folk theology's quiet profundity. Beyond outlier outrage, the banquet spotlights Italy's metamorphosis from Gothic fealty to modern mosaic. Alexander aped princely pomp, spectacle as scepter, yet vicarial mantle wrought schisms unendurable. Gazing o'er half-millennium to that flambeau-lit Vatican vigil, we behold Homo sapiens' perennial fray, celestial yearnings clashing carnal coils. Chestnuts strewn on pontifical parquet, meek orbs mirrored dignity's plunge unbound by ethic's bridle. In our epoch of mirrored dualities where shepherds stray, thrones corrode, the Rite endures as cautionary codex. The tapers that limned that infamy guttered long agone, revelers moulder in forum's clay, salons now cradle Raphaels for pious gazers, yet Burchard's terse Latin endures, enshrining the veil's rending. When Christ's proxy blurred with Nero's shade, and filberts on marble testified to ambition's gulf from gospel. Alexander's arcane orgy transcends personal lapse, a speculum to our dual genius for exaltation and abyss. Builders of basilicas sublime, we convene in sacred halls for spectacles eroding faith's footings. Those pre-dawn gleaned nuts fade, but their queries on sway, creed, frailty litter time's tesserae, bidding each era forge reckoning with the most wayward keybearer to the divine.